we're kind of flipping the model. How do you get the customers to be more in the mix beyond just, hey, this is what my requirement is?
We're back with another episode of Forging the Future, and today we have Indrajit Datta, co-founder of Equipt. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, Chris.
Or as we call you, Indy.
You can call me anything. I've been called worse.
So you have a lot of oil and gas experience. You're also a startup founder, but let's talk about how you got started in the industry. 20 plus years of oil and gas experience at some of the bigger names, right?
Yeah, I mean, always grew up in an oil family, kind of. Not an oil family, but my dad was in the industry. Always was interested in the industry. So even as a kid, would go to the field and see what's going on.
And where was this?
This was pretty much all over India and the Middle East.
Okay.
So did that and was always interested. Wanted to be an engineer. And ended up getting a master's with petroleum engineering, and the rest is history.
And where did you get your master's at?
Aberdeen, Scotland, Robert Gordon's University.
Okay. And what was your first job?
Mechanical engineer. Oh, my first job was with Schlumberger.
Okay.
So started both jobs, Schlumberger and FMC Technologies, in the field as a field engineer, and then progressed up through the ranks pretty much.
And when you're a field engineer, are you actually out in the field?
Yes.
Doing what?
So it totally depends. From my Schlumberger part was with well testing.
Okay.
So new oil wells come online, you test them to see how much oil, water, gas is getting produced, and so on, and different techniques are there. Lots of different equipment. So.
Okay. And so 20 years of that.
Yeah, in fact, more than 25 years of oil and gas.
Okay.
But there was one point in time when I was running the U.S. operations for FMC for the surface business, and I was struggling with really understanding my P&L as to where the money was going. And
how big of a P&L was that?
It was about a $300 million P&L.
Okay.
So though we had all the software that's available at our disposal and a lot of very sharp people who could dig down several layers through those software, but it was always what exactly happened. We met our top line forecast and meet our bottom line, and so on. So at the time, I wanted a software that would give me that transparency to better pinpoint where those problem areas were and how we could solve them, rather than trying to think where those problem areas were.
Right. And there wasn't anything available?
There wasn't anything available, and there still isn't. However, having said that, fast forward to Equipt, we really said that this has been solved in the B2C space to a large extent. So why can't this be done in B2B? And that's what Equipt is all about. We are a software company that's for B2B software for industrials. And how can we get them from A to Z faster and more efficiently?
And when you say been solved for consumer, you mean websites like Amazon?
Exactly. There's so many. Even the smallest things, such as a pizza delivery app. So there's a lot of different ideas, from eyeglasses to pizza delivery to Amazon to every one of these software. They have certain advantages and how they help the consumer.
Right.
And industry is moving, not just the oil and gas, but in general, most industries are undergoing this rapid change.
Right.
And they're not going to be able to operate the same way as they did even 5-7 years ago. So Equipt's mission is to really solve that and make it more easier, plus welcome the new generation of workers coming in.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of companies that have come to us for development that have enterprises, and they're hiring the younger generation. And one of the challenges is they try to give them a stack of papers and they don't know what to do with them, and they're not even sure they read them. And the younger generation is essentially like, well, where's your app, right? How do you expect me to do my job without an app?
Right.
And so does Equipt, is Equipt...
Yeah, so we are mobile friendly and more of, check the box rather than make it as intuitive as possible. So one of the ways we test it is how can we make the user, does not matter what level of education or anything, because some of these industries are more complex. But how do we put a tool in their hands that makes their lives easier? There are fewer and fewer people doing more things, so it's doing more with less. How do we enable that? And we actually had a live example. We were going live with one of our customers, and the guys in the yard and the shop who are loading out equipment, we hadn't even given them the training. And we said, we are here. We showed them, we gave them a demo of the tool and said, why don't you have a go at it? And let's see, we are here to answer any questions. And they intuitively just ran through the whole thing. And it was, so exciting for us to see that during the lunch break, one of these guys goes and gets a stack of papers, says, this is what I have to do these days. And from tomorrow, can I just go, I have a big job loading out. Can I just go use the Equipt software? And he said, no, you can't, because we're not going live till Monday. He was so bummed out that he has to still do it.
But it was obvious you're solving a real need then.
Yeah, it has to be simplified. And so, yeah, we're really excited and making good traction there.
Tell me a little bit about going from large companies like Schlumberger and Technip to deciding to take that red pill and jump into the startup space.
This was always something that I felt was required. Wanted to do it back in my FMC days. And I was told we are a hardware company, not a software company back then. So the need is there, not just for the oil and gas industry, but the oil and gas industry is prime for this because of all the external pressures, whether it's environmental or people and COVID and people moving out of the industry and these constant ups and downs because of the price volatility. So oil and gas is prime for this, but I've talked to executives in other industries such as pharma, aviation. Everyone has the same problems.
Do you see Equipt expanding into those areas?
Certainly that is our vision, to expand into those areas, but our initial beachhead is oil and gas.
Okay. And you've been doing this since 2020?
Yeah, well, 2020, fourth quarter roughly, we incorporated the company. By the time we...
You and your co-founder?
Yes, a really sharp lady. So we have worked together before, so we understood each other. And we came from different sides, so I was her internal customer. And we said, this has to be done, and we jumped on. The time was right. COVID, there was a lot of time to think about different things. So to your question on taking the red pill and jumping into this has been extremely rewarding and exciting.
That's great. But you also haven't paid yourself like in a year and a half or two, right?
Something I don't know. What is that?
Yeah, well, that's the startup dilemma, right?
But I think we feel positive. We are confident that we are solving a need that exists, and that payday will come soon.
Yeah. Well, how are you getting traction? You have customers. How are you finding them?
Primarily at this point, it's our network. That we have opened our seed round, like Chris, and to kind of accelerate our growth, we soon plan to really hire people at the moment we have raised some money.
Okay. So you're raising around right now.
Yeah.
Okay. And you said no solutions really, you don't really have competitors? There aren't any competing solutions, or you do?
So one of the biggest things, so all different types of software, millions of them, if not more, exist. But they're not interconnected. And in any business ecosystem, not just internally, but there are multiple external parties. So, and they're using some other different software, and none of these things are talking to each other, which is where a lot of time is lost, a lot of frustration waiting on things to move on. So that is what Equipt is solving, that interconnections between all these software. We can be a standalone software that a company can use to get from customer acquisition all the way through product or service delivery. Or we can integrate with any existing tech stack to make it more useful.
Okay.
And we do it extremely fast.
How fast?
So we're talking, typical software implementation, which I'm sure you've seen, takes years with a lot of external consultants who cost a lot of money. We do it in months, weeks sometimes. One of the phases for our client, we did it in 4 weeks.
Wow.
So 4 to 12 weeks, depending on the complexity. And we typically encourage our clients to keep it fairly scoped. Otherwise, if you start getting into scope creep and all, which generally tends to happen, the timeline can extend. So let's solve this. Let's get it in the hands of people. Let them start using it. And then we can call it a phase 1.5 or a phase 2 and so on and so forth. And we can keep growing that way.
Well, one of the challenges in rolling new tool adoption at larger companies is that you've got this great tool, but how do you get the users to adopt it? Do you help the company with selling the team on using the product?
So we typically start our sales cycle at the executive level, and then quickly get it down to the operational level where we start engaging the users. But one key thing we do is unit acceptance testing. So as we are pretty much as part of Agile, as we are building the product, if it is not already built, if it is something we've already developed, then we start going and more configuring. But if it is not built, then we get the users involved at a much earlier level so that we can get their inputs. But ultimately, most of our product is about configuration. So think of it like ingredients. If you're going down the supermarket aisle, you would make your stew with certain things, and I'll make mine with certain other things. And so we let our customers get the feel for a more customized product, if you will, and that they can relate to, their people can relate to. And that really helps, drive that momentum within the organization that, yes, we've had some input. This is not some out-of-the-box solution that we've got to change everything. Now, there could be some changes in their business process, the way they do things, but we try to minimize that as much as possible.
So you have a platform that then requires a certain amount of customization for each client.
It does. I mean, we want to give our clients the best possible or customized product that they wish. But that does not necessarily mean from an Equipt standpoint that we are developing everything.
And is it just like equipment ordering, or is it there's configuration, or like, and so instead of buying a Lego set for my grandchildren, I think I would use your platform to buy a $95,000 wellhead, or what happens?
So it is. We're kind of flipping the model. How do you get the customers to be more in the mix beyond just, hey, this is what my requirement is? We're trying to minimize the number of steps and the number of touch points. So what does that really mean? It means that if my customer has picked the Lego products that you're talking about, then they've essentially generated the quotation. So why do I, as a supplier of Lego products, has to generate a quote, which is what typically happens today? Now, what I can do is, if there is a customized product in there, which requires some other add-ons or value-added features to be, activities to happen, then we can give the ability to the commercial department just to input those things which the customer doesn't know. So how do you get others to kind of what they've already done? How do you take that information and move it along the value chain?
I see. Interesting. So tell me a little bit about your experience as a startup in Houston.
It has been great. For one, Houston is, from an oil and gas standpoint, it is the oil capital of the world. So being in the industry...
Now trying to be the energy capital of the world. Right?
Now trying to be the energy capital and will be the energy capital of the world. So really excited. So there are a lot of opportunities in Houston, which makes it rather exciting. Having said that, from a fundraising standpoint, there aren't that many that there are on the East or the West Coast. So that becomes a little more challenging. But even, us coming to Softeq Venture Studios was really exciting because we are not just like a number in a large corporation.
Right.
So we get to interact with, with you and many other folks. So it makes it a lot more intimate, and we try to understand each other, and we get that more, interaction, which makes it rather exciting.
Right. And have you made use of any other parts of the ecosystem besides the Softeq Venture Studio? Has anything been of value? Any other accelerators or STOs or...
So we currently are a part of the New Chip accelerator as well. So that is also pretty exciting. So it's I personally see it as, and my co-founder and partner would say the same. We see it as a growth in our mindset. Having run a large P&L and those kind of things was extremely different. Even having done startups within a large corporation is extremely different, and I did not have that appreciation of what a real startup is. So starting new markets and those kind of things, acquiring customers, bringing new products to the market, done that, which is what I thought that this was just another product I'm bringing to the market.
Right.
But we've learned tremendously, and which is the real exciting thing for me. Love learning and continue to learn. So it's all building one on top of the other. So it's great. And having that experience from the real world and industry really kind of rounds us off.
Right. Well, at least you understand your customer pretty well. There's a lot of challenges being a startup entrepreneur. What in particular do you find the most challenging?
It's really the work-life balance is challenging because we do not have people to do everything. The second is also, expertise in certain things. For example, marketing. We always had a marketing department that would help us. And so here we are. Never really had to bother about some of these things, but now have to think about it, have to consult with people and get the appropriate help. And we are not shy to ask for help.
I think that is one thing that people find difficult coming from a large company is that you are surrounded by a lot of help at a large business, and suddenly you're with a startup and you look around and there's no one even to help you empty the trash can, right? It's on you. And if you need marketing, you need to put a marketing hat on. If you need to do sales, you put the sales hat on. Fundraising hat. That's one of the things that I really enjoy about being an entrepreneur is you do get to wear all those different hats and you don't have to just do any one thing.
Yeah.
Especially in the beginning.
Yeah, 100%. I couldn't agree more. Which is why I'm so excited about this. It just makes me really happy. My wife is really supportive, so that helps with no paycheck. That you
was
need
that? I mean,
wife.
that is another challenge, right? So you have a family. Your spouse may not be as comfortable taking the red pill or the plunge. I mean, what do you mean you're quitting Technique, right? And now you're not going to get paid. And how is this going to work? Because it really shifts the, as an employee, Friday is payday. As a business owner, Friday is, I've got to pay people. And how am I going to do that? Right. And so I'm sure it helps a lot to have a supportive spouse. Was she any kind of fear at all in taking that step?
She's always, even in my long career in the industry, in the oil and gas industry, we were pretty much moved every couple to 3 years around the world, and it was easy for me to go. I would find I'd met so many people around the company, around the world. I could just go to the office the next day and figure my way through it, and it was just another day at work.
Right.
But for her, it was a lot of adaptation. Different countries, different cultures, issues with getting visas, work permits, and all those kind of things. That
children, if you have
children, school, settling down, all those kind of things. So she's, I guess, hardened with all that, but not just that. She's always been supportive of those moves as well, because that was pretty challenging on her.
So a lot of trust.
Yeah.
I had the same thing when I quit IBM as a young, early in my career, but also a lot of support from my wife and the family. So, but I still think they were thinking, "What? Quit IBM? Right? Are you crazy?" It's like, IBM's not going anywhere, right? So all right. What were some of the takeaways from your time participating in the Venture Studio? Anything stand out?
Oh, clearly, since we are solving a highly complex problem, one of the things we struggled with, which the studio really helped sort out in our minds, was the messaging. That was clearly a huge benefit. But there were interacting, all those, the talks, such as you gave that talk about your, career walk, and many others, that put a lot of things in perspective on how things work, what the expectations should be. So there were a lot of soft things that we learned at Softeq.
That's good.
So yeah, overall, it was a great experience.
Great. How is Equipt trying to forge the future in this B2B space?
So there's a few things in forging a future. One is you take immediate action, and people have to adapt to it within our customers' organization. So how do we simplify that so people don't get intimidated? The same applies even when you're doing a kind of smaller scale introduction to gain trust, because it takes a lot for a large company to come and give their business to a young startup. So to gain their trust, we try to demonstrate that we can deliver fast. People will adopt this because we keep talking about adoption. So that's really how we think the future has to be, that we scope it right as we go out and we start thinking about the workforce, we start thinking about the organization, what their challenges would be. I mean, every one of these, and our target are best target clients are medium to small size companies. Helps us develop a really agile product, something that is robust, and because they do a lot of things and they do it really well. And then you have the larger corporations who have spent their multiple millions of dollars. So that change management, again, is critical because we want them to feel at ease that we're not going to ask them to throw away all that money, which is going to be a sunk cost for them. So how do we make it useful, and ultimately, how do we make our customers get from A to Z faster? So that's what forging the future means to us.
Okay. How does a small company like yourself sell to these medium enterprises and get that trust where that you're going to come in and help them create new systems, but you're obviously very small and new, right?
So I think it could be really challenging, but we were fortunate to make the sale to our first client, who's the world's largest steel producer, and we did a global deployment. So something like that carries a lot of weight when we go to talk to others. Yes, people, I mean, our current client profile is people from our network, so that helps because we have some history with them. But then we also say we can execute. So that's a little proof point to kind of get our foot in the door, if you will.
So the largest steel manufacturer, how did that sale actually happen? How did you convince them to use Equipt?
Oh, that's an interesting story. So I was talking to one of their executives in Houston, and it wasn't a sales pitch. We were just talking.
All right.
And he says, "Oh, that's so interesting what you're doing, but we are looking at this similar kinds of activities, but in a different realm. We were more looking at operations. They were looking at pre-sale." So I said, "Yeah, that makes complete sense because what you acquire as a customer, you have to deliver something. So all these things are, interconnected." So,
but how did you run into them in the first place? You're just like at a sandwich shop or what?
No, I happen to know the person.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah. So we were just
network.
Yeah, in network, and I was just talking to him, and so.
And they said, "Oh, that sounds interesting."
He said, "It sounds interesting." I said, "Well, how about giving us a shot at this?"
Yeah.
And he says, "This is a global project, and their group CEO is in Europe. This is in the midst of COVID, so not just him, but all the other CEOs from different regions of the world, everyone has to agree, and to get all of them, these are busy people, in the same room is another challenge." I said, "Well, if you could try to get a meeting," and they were actually going to award that business to an extremely large company. And
you convinced them to take the
so it was just
you.
one shot at it. And
how long did it take to come together? So they organized some call, you did some demo, you convinced them. How long did it take them to make a decision?
So the sales cycle in total was 3 months, because the initial kind of, the other funny thing was we hadn't even registered a domain. So I sent the proposal from a gmail.com.
Nice.
So I was...
That's no better way to say we're a small company.
and
we don't even have an $8 domain name, right?
That's right. We're really bootstrapped here.
Yeah.
And in fact, their head of IT turned around and says, "Is this a joke? Is this a real company? They've got a gmail.com, and website was sketchy at best." And
Wow. That's cool. Origin story, but you did it.
We did
convinced
it.
them.
Our team did a fabulous job. It was a highly complex project, and we're really proud that we were confident. It was more them taking that leap of faith and trusting us to do it. So we really appreciate their relationship, and we continue to grow with them.
Well, if anyone tells you that there wasn't any luck involved in their success, they're either clueless or lying about it, because you always need a little bit of that.
Oh, yeah.
Something comes together randomly, it's unexpected, the right deal comes at the right time. This was a lead deal for you and really got you off the ground.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, clearly. I mean, I'm a firm believer of luck. There has to be an element of luck.
Mm-hmm. But you have to play the game in order for the luck to happen. So.
Yeah. I mean, but again, I'm not, we're not one of those get in your face kind of salespeople.
Mm-hmm.
So let's figure out what we're trying to solve for, who is it for,
right?
And then we can think about how to do it best.
Mm-hmm. So if someone is interested in this solution, how do they get a hold of you? How can they connect with you?
Oh, Equipt.com. With a hyphen, so let me spell it out, EQUIP-T.com.
I thought we were getting rid of that hyphen.
We will soon enough, hopefully.
Yeah.
So that's the only domain we could find when we had to resend the proposal from a domain address. So we did,
EQUIP-T.com.
That's correct.
All right, great.
And here in Houston, contact at Equipt.com will come directly to me. So we will take care of your business.
That's great. And anything new or exciting coming up after this?
Yeah, so we are constantly getting challenged by our customers. So we haven't completed our entire roadmap, but we are moving along really well. And the different, inputs from our clients is helping us make our product really, really robust.
And how many clients do you have now?
3.
3? Okay, great.
So it's really our clients are helping us build it, and which makes it's validated. The need is there, and the next client comes along, we take pieces of what we've done for the previous client and then modify it to use it. So it's so there are a few new modules. So we're constantly building, and a little ways away from getting the entire vision of Equipt realized, but we're moving along nicely. So there's some new feature or the other, and enhancements to existing features, and how do we make the UI better, more interactive, less training for people. Those are the things that constantly keep coming out at a fairly frequent basis.
Right. Software's never done. So, Indy, I've got my geek socks on today. I like different sizes. I think you've got some socks there.
Really nice socks.
Some robotics, oil and gas, oil well socks. So I've got you some socks. I know you like to play golf. So
wow, that's awesome. That is super
18th hole. So thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you.
Enjoy.
Appreciate it.